Hey Geek, so if you're ever looking through some of your old stuff that you have in storage and stuff, you never know what you're going to find. And in this case, I was looking through some of my brother's older boxes, and well, I was able to find some things because my younger brothers were, I would say, bigger video gamers than I was. And so this is the one that is special, this PlayStation 3 box, but I'm going to save this one because there's something really interesting about this box. But before that, I was able to find some games, and these are games that I would say are pretty special or unique for their time. So the first one is Max Payne on the PlayStation 2. This game was pretty fun. It had bullet time, and this was really made popular by The Matrix, but they tried to do this in a game, and it was a really solid game. And they even made a movie with Mark Wahlberg for Max Payne, so that one is interesting. Another one that we have is one that some people might not have known of, but it was one that became kind of like a cult classic, I would say, and that is God Hand from Capcom. The cover is pretty horrible for the US, but the Japanese game is pretty awesome. It's kind of seriously anime style, and check that out. I just don't like the US cover. This game itself, it is pretty sweet. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and so God Hand is one that is a lot of people's favorites in a cult classic type of way. And then this one is also a cult classic, Psychonauts on the PlayStation 2. The original Psychonauts, I enjoyed it, but I think Psychonauts 2 was a little better for me. So there is, I think, a modern sequel to this as well, if I remember correctly. And then this one's a pretty big one. Actually, it's huge. One of the largest video game franchises of all time. And this was the game that really put the entire series on the map. And this one right here, Grand Theft Auto 3. So there was Grand Theft Auto 1, Grand Theft Auto 2. There were little known games on the PC, if I remember correctly, but they were like overhead. And they were not 3D'd until Grand Theft Auto 3. And ever since then, Rockstar Games has never been the same because of this. So this is really the one that started it all, and it's a pretty huge game. And to go along with that, there's Grand Theft Auto Liberty Cities. I think this was just like an extension of this version, if I remember correctly, before Grand Theft Auto 4. So I would say this is definitely one of the biggest games ever for the PlayStation, just games in general with the Grand Theft Auto series. And I know this is all PlayStation 2 so far, so I do have one from Microsoft, and it's this right here, Ninja Gaiden, or Gaiden. And this was the first iteration of it in a 3D game, as I recall, because Ninja Gaiden before that was on a Nintendo, one of the hardest games ever. And whenever it came to Xbox, it was definitely different from any Ninja Gaiden game that we ever played. But honestly, it was a really great showing of Ryu in 3D form. It was so much fun. And then it kind of launched another series of Ninja Gaiden games, a 3D version. So hopefully there'll be some newer games in this series because, well, it is pretty awesome. And then there was one final game that was actually a surprise. To me, one of the best games of all time. And whenever I was looking through, I found a PlayStation 1 case with Front Mission 3 from Squaresoft. And you could definitely not go wrong with Front Mission. But whenever I opened it, it wasn't Front Mission, but instead, it is this right here. Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation 1. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and it had that black cover. So awesome. And well, I wish Front Mission 3 was in here also, but I'm really super happy that Symphony of the Night is in here. Unfortunately, I don't know where the original case and cover is, but it's here. And so those are the games. So now we'll go back to this right here. And well, I was super excited. It's the PlayStation 3, right? But then when I opened it, unfortunately, what we have was not the PlayStation 3. What I got was a whole bunch of wires and controllers. So, yeah, very disappointing. I honestly don't know what happened to the PlayStation 3 console. It's probably somewhere, but I don't know where it is. But because of that, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the controllers that were in there. And this is basically going to be all Sega. So the first one that we have is the Sega Dreamcast and the Sega Dreamcast in color form. And at the same time, we actually have some VMUs in here, which is really different for the time. Different colors. Got a red one here, blue one here. Now, the Dreamcast controllers, they were not my favorite, but they were probably one of the most unique controllers at the time. And they also had this right here. They had a rumble pack. So, I don't know if this comes off. Yeah, that one's really hard. I think it's stuck on that one. Let me see if I could get this one out. This is a, there it is. That is a rumble pack. So, you could get some rumble feedback action on here. And so, I would say the Dreamcast controller was very, very unique and versatile. Although, I don't think it was the best controller. But there is one controller that I consider to be the best controller from Sega. And it was this right here. The Sega Saturn 6-button controller. This controller, in my opinion, is the best Sega controller out of all the ones that they've ever made. And to go from the Sega Saturn controller over to the Dreamcast, I think they made a pretty big mistake, in my opinion. I thought they were going to keep something like this and just make it better. But unfortunately, that's what we got. And then I have one more Dreamcast peripheral. It's not actually a controller, but it's a light gun. So there were a lot of light gun games on the Dreamcast as well because it was capable of doing arcade quality games. And so that's what I got today. A lot of games here, which is awesome. Some big hitters as well and some classics. But what disappointed me the most was actually not having the PlayStation 3 inside the PlayStation 3 box. But who knows? Might be able to find it later. So, if you actually had any thoughts on any of these things that I found today, whether it's the games, the empty PlayStation 3 box, or controllers, be sure to leave in the comments there below, and I'll see you on another episode.